So, oh, I think my baby's waking up. Look, I got some stuff to share with you guys. So, two things. The first thing I'm going to share is for the first video. Matter of fact, before we even get into it, I just want you guys to know if you live in Lake County, Indiana, more specifically, if you live in Hammond, Indiana, you're going to want to see the last video that I share. Hold on, baby. You're going to want to see the last video that I share. But this video that I'm about to show you right now is going to shed some light on the topic that I'm about to talk about right now. So get ready, buckle up, because you guys got to hear this.
This is the port of Long Beach, California. It is the second largest port in North America, ahead of the port of New York and behind the port of Los Angeles. Roughly 16 million tons of cargo pass through this port each year, which eventually makes its way to warehouses, factories, and homes within the United States. Now, this single port, which is just 13 square kilometers, is responsible for well over $100 billion worth of trade and employs over 340,000 people in Southern California. So it is quite apparent that this port is one of the most vital parts of Southern California's economy. Yet the Port of Long Beach is not owned by the city of Long Beach, nor is it owned by the state of California, and it's not even owned by the nation of the United States. You see, in the late 1980s, the Port of Long Beach was sold to a company called Orient Overseas International Limited, which is a company that is based out of Hong Kong. And at this time when the purchase was made, Hong Kong was a British colony and a close economic partner with the United States. So the United States viewed this sale as a win-win, as the Hong Kong-based company would go on to invest billions of dollars and expand the port on its own, while hundreds of thousands of jobs in Southern California would be created from this investment. And for roughly 3 decades, that's what happened. This was a fairly positive relationship between Long Beach, California, and the Hong Kong-based company. But then in 2017, something happened that put an end to this positive relationship. You see, in July of 2017, the Chinese state-run company called COSCO ended up purchasing a 75% stake in the Orient Overseas International Limited Company. Therefore, China became the new owner of the Hong Kong-based company, and therefore technically the owner of the Port of Long Beach, California. Now, even though this probably didn't make the news because shipping is not exactly the most interesting topic to bring up in mainstream news, it was important enough for the federal government to take action. You see, a state-run Chinese company now owned the 3rd most important port in North America, meaning that the Chinese government had control over one of the key trading points and economic hubs of the United States. And for the United States government, that was completely unacceptable, citing national security risks. So that is why the federal government forced COSCO to sell off the Port of Long Beach immediately to a non-Chinese state-run company. And in 2019, Australia's Macquarie Group ended up buying the port for $1.8 billion. So now technically the Port of Long Beach is owned by a private Australian company, which is viewed as a much safer owner in the eyes of the US government. Now, if this was just an isolated incident of China trying to buy up an important seaport, then it might be worth just ending the video right here. But this is just one of dozens of cases where Chinese state-run companies have tried buying out the most important ports in the world. For example, in Hambantota, Sri Lanka, there is a port that is in a strategic location just below one of China's rivals, which is India. So in 2017, China was able to buy out a controlling share in this port, largely because the government of Sri Lanka was in a lot of debt and needed foreign investment in order to save its economy. And there are other examples just like this. For example, in Australia in 2015 and 2016, Chinese investors bought out a controlling interest in Port Darwin and a large share of the Port of Melbourne. China also controls the port of Freeport in the Bahamas, which is just off the coast of the United States. And in fact, China and Chinese companies control ports in virtually every major country in the world, and in countries where they don't control any ports, they typically have around 49% ownership of at least some ports of the country. And some examples of this are some ports in Belgium, France, and even the United States. But here's what might be the most striking point of this video. This buying spree where China is buying up all of the ports all over the world has only really been occurring for the last 10 years, meaning that China went from having relatively no ownership of any ports before the year 2010 to becoming the largest owner of the world's ports today. So that brings up the question, why are they doing this? And what are the ramifications of China's plan? Well, let's start off with the first question. They are doing this because of something they have called the Belt and Road Initiative. Essentially, this was a plan announced by China in the early 2010s with the purpose of having a global development and investment strategy. President Xi Jinping was quoted as saying that the initiative is a bid to enhance regional connectivity and embrace a brighter future. So he was pretty much implying that the entire purpose of this initiative was to build friendlier relationships with foreign countries while helping grow China's economy. But others have called it China's plan for world domination with a China-centered global trading network. In fact, the plan was nicknamed by some as the One Belt,
Just
One
keep
Road
holding on,
initiative,
guys. Keep watching
essentially
this. All right,
implying
there's a
that
reason
China
why I'm
wants to
sharing this video.
monopolize the
It's
world's
about
trading
5
network.
months old.
And
but
well,
pay
that
attention
strategy
why.
to monopolize the trading network of the world seems to be more in line with one very specific trade route that China has almost certainly been trying its best to monopolize. And that trade route is called the 21st Century Maritime Silk Road. If you were to take a look at a map, you would see that the most efficient trade route between China, Africa, and Europe is one where you start off the coast of China, then travel through the port of Singapore, which China bought in 2015. Then you would travel past Port Hambantota in Sri Lanka, which I already mentioned is owned by China. Then you would travel along the east coast of Africa and the southern tip of Yemen. And in Yemen, China has invested $508 million into ports in Mocha and Aden. And in East Africa, China is a heavy investor in the ports of Djibouti and Sudan. But after passing by Yemen and East Africa, you would have to go through the Suez Canal, which I had recently just made a video about, and you can check out on my channel. But nonetheless, China has agreed to invest $5 billion within the Suez Economic Zone, which is essentially the Suez Canal. Then lastly, to get to Europe, you would have the option of either stopping at the port of Kumport in Turkey, which China is of course an investor in, or you could go through the waterways of Istanbul, which China is heavily invested in as well. But there's also another option where you could end your journey at what is known as the Pearl of the Mediterranean, also known as the distribution hub of Europe, called the Port of Piraeus in Greece. Now, I do have a whole video coming out on the Port of Piraeus in Greece, which you should subscribe and hit the notification bell to see, as that video will be coming out in the next few days. But all you have to know for this video is that China was able to buy out the Port of Piraeus, even though many Western powers had the opportunity to do so beforehand. So, COSCO, the Chinese shipping company, now owns one of the largest trading hubs in Europe, and also now is an owner of all of the major ports that connect China to Europe, East Africa, and Western Asia. Essentially, China has nearly monopolized an entire trade route within the last 10 years. And its plans to own the world's trade routes don't just stop there. For example, I made a video on Canada's Northwest Passage and how it will likely become the most important trade route in the world by 2050, and China has already laid the groundwork for potentially investing in the Arctic region by publishing a lengthy essay on the importance of investing in the Northwest Passage in Canada. And they've also bought out their first Canadian port in Nova Scotia, while also sending many ships through the Northwest Passage within the last decade. And if that wasn't enough, China has invested even more money into the Northeast Sea Route in Russia, and have even invested in Greenland. And by the way, one shocking statistic I was able to find was that these Chinese investments in Greenland represent up to 12% of Greenland's GDP. Now, I could go on and on about all of the other trade routes that China is trying to monopolize, but the main takeaway that you should take here is that no trade route is safe from Chinese ownership. But then that brings up the question: what are the ramifications of all of this? Well, let's dig into it and start off with this fact. Even though China has invested in many ports around the world, that does not mean that they own it in perpetuity. So for example, in the majority of these investments, the ports that they are invested in are actually leased for the duration of between usually 30 years and 99 years, meaning that the original owner of the port will eventually take back some control from China unless a new deal is renegotiated beforehand. Another point is that all of these countries are legally allowed to kick out Chinese companies if they feel it is a threat to national security. I mean, the US has already done this. And if other countries feel the need to stop China's trade domination, then they are more than welcome to do so and force them to sell off ownership in the ports. But for China, by having control over so many important trade hubs, they're quietly becoming the new trading empire of the world. Essentially, they're taking fees and thereby growing their own economy with every ship that passes through their ports. Meaning that as all other countries on the planet grow and become more connected through trade, the real secret winner here is actually COSCO and China. Now, another ramification is obviously the influence of Chinese companies, which will likely become more and more apparent as time goes on. I mean, sure, China is able to control the ports in many countries, and potentially decide which countries and companies can use the ports and which cannot. But what might be a more important point is that they are also able to control the areas around these ports. So they're able to bring over other Chinese companies into foreign countries and further increase the Chinese influence in the area, which of course many countries like the US don't really like right now. And lastly, and maybe most importantly, is that shipping and trade is a very unique industry that works closely with the manufacturing industry, the shipping industry, and the government. And one of the fears that is mounting is that China is gaining political influence throughout the world. And some are growing nervous that the tensions between the Eastern and Western powers may climb as China continues to increase its influence. But the same could also be said the other way, because it is possible that Chinese expansion into Western countries might make China more open to Western ideas, which would potentially lesser the tensions between the world superpowers. But nonetheless, even though most governments around the world have the option of stopping Chinese investments into their own ports, the results so far as a whole have been relatively positive for most of the countries that China has invested in, as most of these investments have actually expanded their ports, hired more people, and the economies of these countries have experienced a tangible boost since taking on Chinese investments. But at the end of the day, the only country that China is still dependent upon in order to fully monopolize the trading network of the world is actually a fairly small country, a country that actually ships the largest quantity of the world's resources and right now controls the world's shipping industry. Yet no one really talks about that. So if China wants to conquer the shipping industry, they must first compete with a few dozen Greek businessmen known as the Golden Greeks. But that will be the story for my next video. So
Okay, so that's an older video, okay? About 5 months old. China's buying everything when it comes to ports, right? So if we know that they're trying to monopolize on the ports, and a lot of them here in America, and you can research more than just that, than just the ports, it goes deeper. They bought a shitload of land throughout our country, okay? Throughout our country and other countries. And they said in the last part of this video that it helped the economy of most of the places where they're buying up land, right? Okay, that might be good and well and true. But we are in debt to China, but $4 trillion. $4 trillion we're in debt to China. So China comes over here, buys up businesses, buys up ports, and they're making money. They say that's helping boost our economy, but we still owe them $4 trillion. So what happens when we get into a conflict? If we get into conflict and when we get into conflict with China, and they own all this land and they have all these different people over here from their country who probably become citizens, which I have no problem with Chinese people, okay? Chinese people in America, you're American as far as I'm concerned, if you're here in this country and American. But when you got people coming over here that are not American and are a part of, like the guy that we watched the other night when I put him on here, the professor, talking about his plan with America and how they need Biden to be elected and all of that, it's a takeover. And what happens when they already have their army here? What happens when we already have people that have infiltrated into our government or to how we operate here in America or know the ins and outs of where you can go and what you can do? That's a scary ass thought. You don't need an army, or I'm sorry, you don't need an airplane or a fighter jet or a missile if you've already got people over here. You know what I'm saying? Which brings me to my next video, right? And this is scary for everybody in Hammond. And I can't understand why this is even happening over there. This is the first I heard about it. Somebody sent me the video and I watched it and I'm like, holy hell. You know what I'm saying? I start thinking about it. And the mayor of Hammond, Indiana, his name is McDermott. Okay. Me and McDermott really haven't gotten along. I tried to like him. I tried to give him the benefit of the doubt, like, oh, he is doing a little bit for Hammond and he built the super center and all of this kind of stuff. But me and him never really got along. We've gotten into it, actually. We've had words because he got mad that I spoke against him when I was on WGN News when I was about 24 years old, 25 years old, something like that. I spoke out against him because I feel like he doesn't take care of the neighborhoods. He takes care of the richer neighborhoods, the neighborhoods with money, but he leaves the hood to be the hood and doesn't do anything about it. All right. I try to give him the benefit of the doubt. But after seeing this, I got pissed. I'm about to share it with you guys right now. Listen to this dude. You're not gonna. I cannot believe that I just heard this. Listen. Here we go.
Hammond Mayor Tom McDermott sitting here along with Councilman Mark Kalwinski. They're a bit ragged right now and looking unshaven and tired, but that's kind of the nature of long distance travel. But they did go and proselytize about the benefits of investing in the city of Hammond to folks in China, specifically to some groups, I think in Beijing and in Shahi City. You guys
And
gave
in
a
Guangzou.
and in Guangzhou down in isn't that southern China?
Yeah.
So you gave the presentation. This is Hammond.
We
This
gave
is
three or four. Yeah, four, I think.
four
You can
presentations.
tell by the number of suits you wore.
Yeah, all right. So 4 presentations to Chinese
Billionaires.
business folks.
And
Okay.
the high level government officials and very wealthy investors.
Okay. And you tell them Hammond's a great place. There's a lot of opportunity, basically.
Yeah, I mean, like we were saying, you have to fear. I mean, they don't fear. They fear the government, but what they're doing is protecting themselves with their money. And if they can wake up tomorrow and have nothing, all right. So what they're doing is they view an investment in America as safe because if everything is stripped of them in China, they still have what they have in America.
So there are folks that are looking to invest in America.
Absolutely.
Okay, and that's what you're after.
Absolutely.
Okay, Mayor, what would you like to see happen?
Well, I think that the partnerships that Purdue's already established are very important. These kids, it's funny. I live. Everybody knows where I live. I live real close to Purdue, Knickerbocker Parkway, and I always thought, wow, look at those kids coming in here and buying houses and driving $60,000 cars, and they're kids. They're 19, 20-year-old kids. For them to buy a house on Knickerbocker Parkway is a drop in the bucket. For them to buy their kid a Land Rover, they're laughing. They're so wealthy, to pay for the cost of a Purdue education, which for I imagine an international student's probably $8,000 a year, nothing. They probably spent more to send their kid to high school than it is to go to Purdue in America. So what we need is, first off, the more partnerships we develop like that, the better off Hammond is for sure, because these kids are choosing Hammond as their home. And this EB-5 program, another person we took with us is Hammond's lobbyist down in Indianapolis, Joe Smith, who's also an attorney for Baker and Daniels. He was there on behalf of the EB-5 program, which is a path for naturalization for Chinese investors. And that's a program we're hitting hard. Is this program, and for them $1 million, which is what the required investment is through this federal national, the United States program. $1 million for them is a drop in the bucket, and for them to get their green card is important. They could literally bring their family to America if they would invest enough here and create enough jobs.
It seems kind of odd that the Chinese government would let you guys go to China and tout the EB-5 program, which would basically be taking some of their citizens. Could Councilman Kalwinski take that very sensitive international topic?
Well, we had elected officials with us at every meeting, every presentation, sometimes on the bus with us traveling from one city to another.
Elected?
And
Officials.
Yeah. From the party and from local cities. So at various state and local levels, we had officials with us at all times. They weren't threatened by us. You never got the sense of us being a threat to anything that they had to offer. They appeared to be interested in us to supplement what they already had and to benefit by what we do right. So education came up constantly. And I think the mayor should talk about our day, part of a day at the Shahi School and the events that took place there. But along with that, interestingly enough, we never saw a boardroom. We never saw a CEO's office. Those kinds of places is not where business is conducted.
That's right.
What where business is conducted is around a round table with food, because what their emphasis is in business is confidence in friendship with those they're working with and trust. And they learn that by interacting with you and breaking bread with you. It was an interesting bit of discovery on how business is conducted and what is important to their culture regarding having business done well.
All right, if you guys want to ask about China, 219-845-1100, the mayor's here.
Can I
Also,
echo
there's,
what
Councilman Kalwinski.
and to echo what the councilman just said, and I think he's trying to be nice, another important part of their culture is alcohol. It's important. And, you know, I'm not a big drinker, but for them, Gombe, many Gombes, which is what we call cheers, which is drink everything in your cup. They say alcohol brings out the truth. And we say that in America as well, but Chinese businessmen, they want you to drink and they want to drink with you and they want to talk to you, and alcohol brings out the truth. And, you know, you can't hide your emotions if you drink enough. And what we were drinking with them is what us in America may call, I say Everclear. They call it white wine. Wow. It was not white wine.
A little more potent than white wine.
I think it would have caught on fire if you lit it.
So look for, by the way, if you, I just opened a line, so 219-845-1100, 219-845-1100. If you got a question for Hammond and Mayor Tom McDermott or Councilman Kalwinski, or a comment about their trip to China. So let's look forward. 3 or 4 years from now, what would you like to see as a fallout from this trip?
I'd like to see a significant investment in America. What we consider significant is what they consider an investment. I mean, if you're talking about $100 million hospital project, for instance, which is some of the things that came up for them, not a big thing at all. Not a big thing at all. I mean, you have to understand, we're talking
Well, let's boil this down. I mean, how would that happen? I mean, would you guys be like a conduit between perhaps some Chinese folks and some local business oriented companies or agencies, or does the state of Indiana coordinate that, or what happens?
That's the problem in our transactions is the cost of money and the ability to get money, and to justify to our bankers why we need the money and whether it's a good investment for them. They have different motivations in China. They look at all these things, but they also look at, if we satisfy certain requirements, we could get some of our students into their schools. We can get some of our family into America.
Mind you, this is the
So they
mayor
have
of
the added
Hammond,
benefit
Indiana,
of becoming naturalized
where I
citizens
grew up
as well.
So I guess the crux of that is that, I mean, by building this bridge, are you saying that there might be some possible direct investment from China into Hammond companies?
Yes.
And then how would the Hammond companies that might be interested in that, how would they get involved in this?
Like one of the projects we talked about was something in the councilman's district, was the hospital project, which is stalled out for lack of financing. Let's say, for instance, it was financed by a Chinese bank. The American company is still an American company. We're not putting a communist official in charge of it, obviously. But what we would be doing is sending our money to there to pay our mortgage, you know. So, but that project is stalled for lack of financing. So it was a perfect example for us to bring it up when we were in China.
Did y'all hear all of that shit, man?
Sick.
Did y'all hear that? So I'm over here wondering, like,
And that's just one mayor.
how the hell? This was back in, this video was from 2012. It's the first time I heard this video, okay? 2012. And then you look at the time from 2012 of Hammond, Indiana. They started doing all types of stuff. They built the sportsplex. They took down the pools. They redid the parks. They started remodeling Hammond, put a new crosswalk over the street. And I'm thinking, how the hell all of a sudden does Hammond got all this money to do all of this stuff? I was wondering, like, how, where? Because Hammond is the hood, bro. There's only a couple nice parts of Hammond. So when did he ever become to do this? And then I started noticing him taking all these trips and doing all this different stuff, lives in a real nice house, his private schools and all types of stuff, right? He got in bed with China. The dude got in bed with China. He went over there and took that trip to China in 2012, greased his own pockets, came back and gave them Hammond. I'll bet you any money. I'm going to look into it. I'll bet you any money. if we look up who owns part or who invested in doing all the different things in Hammond that has been done in Hammond, I'll bet you any money. China's behind it.
Wow.
I'll put money on it. And this is the reason why I shared him, is because it's close to home. So it's not just something like we just seen in the first video. It's not just a video being made about Long Beach. Or no, these are even small cities selling out. And I wonder, how did this mayor, he's a mayor, how is this dude balling like he's balling? And it's because he's in bed with China. China's going to end up owing the United States of America if we don't do something. They're getting all these cities, man. They're getting all these officials in their pocket. They the highest up, like they said, with the guy that we watched. That I shared the video, the professor in China. He said, we got officials in the highest level of office, in the top 1%. That's a scary ass thought. It's terrifying. Because what if we are, think about this. We owe them $4 trillion. Yet they are willing to invest in America?
No.
To invest in things that are going on over here in America? And the dude blatantly says, well, we're not going to have a communist whatever running, but you'll take their money. You're not going to let them run anything, but you'll take their money. It just doesn't add up to me. It does not add up to me, man. Well, you say what we're going to do? This is what I say we do. I told you guys before, we got homework, right? In your city where you live, if you've seen like a mass rebuilding of something and your city's just looking nicer in the nicer parts of it, right? They're doing things. I want you to do your homework and look up where that money came from. Did they take a trip to China like our beloved mayor over here in Hammond, Indiana? And when they came back, did you see just a big old change? Because this is what, 6, almost 7 years ago that this video was made? Yeah. And now I can understand why in the last 7 years Hammond has changed big time. And I'm probably going to get some flack back because this mayor doesn't like me already. And I already give him shit all the time. Back in the day, me and him had it out, literally. So I know when he sees this, he's going to be a little pissed off. I tried to talk to the mayor, but that's why he had that arrogance when me and him did talk. It's because he's like, who am I? Who are you to tell me anything, Cash? And at this time, I didn't have a big following. I was just an up-and-coming artist. You know what I'm saying? A gang activist trying to keep kids away from gangs. And he was just, his arrogance was there. You know what I'm saying? And now I get it, because this man got money that nobody don't know about from the people that he's letting take over. That's why.
It's crazy.
It's a sad ass day. I'm gonna stay on top of this dude. Now I'm about to go at it. I'm telling you, I'm about to look into this mayor. I'm about to make him my business. I'm about to make him my business. Matter of fact, all the mayors in my surrounding area, I'm about to make them my business and see what's really going on. And I challenge everybody to do the same. If we're gonna start holding all of our officials accountable, it's got to start right there at home. Right there at home. Look into it. Let's see how far this corruption really does go. Straight up. You guys got anything you want to add?
Is that guy the same mayor still? Because he's
still the mayor. He's been the mayor since I was a child.
I just did like a little quick search, and there was already something like in August of a park improvement. So
yeah, exactly.
interesting.
He was mayor. I believe his dad was mayor before him. They're like career politicians.
And you got to
He's the one that lost. He ran for Congress and lost.
dig deeper to like make sure, like it may even have like hidden names. You got to go deeper than that. Like find out what the LLC or corporation was that did it, and go deeper in its layers and find the truth.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, we just know that the CCP has infiltrated every aspect of our country. I mean, you look at this Pfizer vaccine that came out, 123 CCP members are involved, or are employees of the location that's going to be mass producing vaccines to the entire country.
Yeah.
They're in bed with our governors, they're in bed with our legislators, our senators, from top to bottom, our CIA, FBI, our second biggest defense company in this entire country is infiltrated with Chinese Communist Party members. So
It's
I mean,
scary ass thought, man.
and
Straight up.
it's not just us, they're influenced all over the world. I mean, I hate them just as much as the next person, and I don't hate Chinese people. I hate the Chinese Communist Party reign and the leaders within that country. But you have to think about, they're smart. What they're doing is smart. If they wanted to take complete control over the world, they're doing it.
Yeah.
They're doing it. But here's the thing. We either can stop it or just let it happen.
You see, what's her name? Suzanne says we're making ourselves look crazy. You got to be hoodwinked. No, it's crazy to think that you think that that's okay for a mayor, a mayor to take a trip to China with a councilman to make some big deal for a city that already is got funding. You know what I'm saying? So what do you need to fund? What do we really need out there except for our communities straightened up? The communities haven't gotten better, but yet we have these new businesses, these new things here. That's the problem. And it didn't create jobs for the people in the community. That's the problem. People are wanting to get paid instead of doing their job. A public official's job is to take care of wherever it is that they're over. That's what they're supposed to do. Not take these little extravagant trips to go make a deal so they can get paid. He's creating himself to be like the new Biden family, is what I just seen. You know what I'm saying? In league with China. But it's whatever. You can have your opinion. That's cool. Have your opinion. But if you don't think nothing's wrong with that, I think you've been the one that is hoodwinked. Just saying.
That was like when we were watching the video earlier on the ports, and somebody was, I don't know who it was, but they're saying, "Oh, why does this matter?" It totally matters. They're gonna take over all of it, and then everything's just gonna go up from there. It's not good.
I agree. I don't know. Something got to happen. That's all I'm saying. Something's got to happen, and it starts with us paying attention, holding them accountable, plain and simple. But that's what I got for you guys. I'm just making you guys aware of what's going on. See, China is a big problem right now. They are a threat. Regardless of what you want to believe, they are a threat. And it's not over war. It's not over war, okay? They're not going to take us out with a war. They're buying our country. They're buying our officials that are elected to protect us and the well-being of us. They're buying them. So pay attention. That's all I'm saying. All right? You guys are done. I'm done. I'm going to eat real quick and then get ready for Cons Avengers.
Yep.
All right. I will see you guys in a little bit. God bless you guys. All right. I love you. Unite, don't fight. Be a street light, because only you can be the change you want to see in the world. And when you get too stressed out, remember to pray, America, because without God, everything falls apart. I'll see you guys here in a little bit. Peace. Yeah. Hold on. Wait. I got to do it again. Wait. I'll see you guys here in a little bit. Peace.
You are a mess.
Yeah, I try.